Good morning. How are you doing today, Valentine?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. I got to tell you what, though. You know how we crazy Americans are. We tend to create words and we don't know how to properly pronounce things. Is it courtiers or courtiers?
It's courtiers.
Courtiers. I like that. See, I mean, we'll sit here and make up words on this side of the ocean.
That's fine. That's good. But you're already ahead of the game because you pronounced my name correctly. Some people get it wrong. You said Valentine, which is right. Some people say Valentine, which is wrong.
You know, let's put that experience inside your pages, because I mean, what you've written a book about here is to make sure that they're playing by the rules, the prim, the proper, the fashion, the design, and so I didn't know this side of the world even existed until I started putting my face in your book.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny world. It's changed a lot in recent years. I mean, in the Victorian era, they used to have to dress up in extraordinary clothes just to have dinner. Silk breeches and funny little ribbons in the hair for the women. And even recently, in the last century, people going to receptions, i.e. sort of parties, we would call them, at Buckingham Palace, like foreign diplomats would have to wear silk breeches, and there was quite a fuss when I think the American ambassador, I can't remember which one, just point blank refused to dress up in such rigmarole. But the Soviet ambassador, when invited to one of these receptions, basically cabled the Kremlin and say, do I really have to wear knee breeches to go to Buckingham Palace? And the answer came back, tell him he'll dress in petticoats if he has to. But all that's more or less gone. But there's still little remnants of it. I spoke to someone who joined the palace, not that long ago in the early 2000s, and one of the first things he did was go down into the basement of the palace to this storeroom, and had to be measured up for what's called household tails, which is a long kind of frock coat with white tie, and the buttons of this thing were kind of embossed with the emblem of George V. Now, George V reigned from, 1910 to 1936. So that just goes to show how old these household tales were. They've gone through several generations of courtier, I think.
Can you imagine what went through the minds of Harry and Meghan when they were set free from the palace? Because all of a sudden, they didn't have all of this with them anymore. They were on their own. Yeah.
I mean, I think William very much missed having his brother to support him,
right?
When Harry and Meghan left. But you mentioned Meghan, and of course the interesting thing about what went wrong there is, to what extent was she prepared for the life that awaited her? Mm-hmm. Now, I think the palace did its best to welcome her. And they said, listen, we appreciate that you're not a young bride. You've had a career of your own. You've been married before. You're a grown up. Let's have a proper conversation about how we do this. We don't have to do this the old way. But I'm not sure that Harry really prepared Meghan for frankly, how boring the life of a member of the royal family can be. I mean, endless official engagements, going around the country, as it were, sort of, visiting hospitals, opening things, cutting ribbons, pulling those little things that have a curtain over a plaque because you've unveiled the plaque, shaking hands with people and pretending you're pleased to see them and you're interested in them. I mean, it can be quite a challenging lifestyle, and I'm not sure that Harry really prepared Meghan for what it was going to be like.
I think one of my fascinations with the book is the fact that one of the things that I do, I work with a movie promotions company. We are on the red carpet, and the amount of work that goes into that, the planners, the doers, and just every player has got to be in place. And I swear that's the reason why I love your book, because it really gives me an inside look at things that I do.
Yeah. And you just think, if you think about these royal tours that they do. I mean, the work that goes into those.
Yes.
You have to send out a team weeks ahead to go around every bit. And, of course, it's not just a question of setting up a royal tour. You have to negotiate with the host country because they will have things that they want to show off, and you'll have things that you want to see. And also, you'll have your own agenda because so you want to have a theme of a tour that you want to kind of promote, and your host country will have their own themes that they want to promote. And there's quite a bit of negotiating, a bit of a dance that goes on, and then trying to get the security and the arrangements and the logistics all sorted out. And of course, you get it all sorted out, and then the day comes. And everything goes crazy anyway. All your best laid plans. What's the great phrase that they have in the military? No plan survives contact with the enemy. Well, that's true of royal tours, I can tell you.
Well, I want you to know that I'm very proud to say King Charles because that's happened in our period. But then when I jump into your book, there's some change because the Queen's team had to go.
Yeah, well, some of the Queen's team, there wasn't room for all of them. And a lot of Charles's old team were told, sorry, that's it. That's the end of the road for you folks. And a lot of them felt quite bitter. They felt they'd been treated pretty poorly.
Oh, Valentine, I love this book. Where can people go to find out more about you? Because this is not your first, ride in the rodeo, man. I mean, because you've been doing this a while, and I want people to see how in touch with the words you are about sharing stories.
Well, I mean, there's. I guess it's easy to find the Times online. I'm afraid you have to pay for it, folks. That's the way of modern newspapers. But my newspaper is online, and you can see my work there. I'm
just so glad that you did this because it helps us understand their world. And I think that, especially as Americans, we don't understand it. We just see what's in the paparazzi magazines. But you're enabling us with this book to really become a part of their lives.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's just kind of interesting, the complex relationship between the people who work for them and the royals, because it's both professional and personal. And different people have different ways of approaching the job, and there are different relationships. And it's kind of endlessly fascinating. Yeah. And there's also one other factor, which is that if you're a courtier, you have a responsibility to the person you're working for, but you also probably, hopefully, believe you have a responsibility to the institution of the royal family. And sometimes those two things clash, and that can lead to interesting times, I can tell you.
Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Lovely talking to you.
You be brilliant today, okay, sir?
And you too.